All right. Good morning, everybody. As always, morning for me may not be morning for you. I know we've got a lot of people who watch this um, live around the world, and that always just blows my mind that we have people watching that anyone outside of like my immediate family would even care to be on here live. Just blows my mind. But hopefully, you're having a good day, whether it's the morning, whether it's the afternoon, or the evening. Hopefully, your day is going well and better than my day started off. Um, I woke up this morning and actually started okay. And as soon as I got out of my shower this morning, I heard um, some disconcerting sounds from downstairs. And apparently, one of our dogs had an issue in the evening, in the nighttime. So I got to clean that up this morning. So that was the beginning of my day. Yay, weekend. So hopefully you guys have had a better day or a better start to your day than that. And then I came in here and I was working on trying to get all the everything set up for the live stream, and like there's a bunch of like weird shadows and stuff, and I'm trying to figure out. I think somebody messed up my tripod, and good times, good times. So we're just gonna go for it today and see what happens as we go through all this. So hopefully everything is going well for you guys. I'd be interested in hearing how you are progressing. We're going to take a look at our project today. We're going to do a little bit of a walkthrough. I almost named the live stream "Watch Me Fail" because I'm gonna walk through kind of how I would approach a lot of these things. I'm not going to do everything that's in all the tickets, but I'm going to kind of walk through the process just to help everybody remember how everything kind of works for the most part. But also, I wanted to just give you a little bit of support in that direction, since it's been a while since we actually looked at a lot of the code there. So we're gonna walk through that today. So more than likely, you're gonna see me fail multiple times in my horrible code writing. You probably wonder how in the world I ever became a senior level developer or a lead developer as poorly as I write code when I'm on here live. But I don't practice ahead of time. I just kind of do it as we go. So, because I feel like that's more realistic. I think it's probably more helpful for you to see me fail and realize that there's still hope if I'm failing. So, there you go. If you are watching live, jump in the chat, say hello. If you are watching later, feel free to leave a comment. Obviously, I do read all of those, as long as I can see them. Sometimes Facebook, sometimes YouTube doesn't really tell me that there's responses and things like that, so I miss those sometimes until days later. But usually, if I get a notification or if I'm just browsing around, I'll see those and I'll respond to them. So feel free to leave a comment on the video if you are watching this later, whatever time of day that is, and hopefully it's still a good day for you if you're watching it later as well. Obviously, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you're not subscribed. Click the bell icon to be notified the next time I do go live, which generally is every Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon Central United States time. And once in a while, there'll be changes to that. But also, you'll be notified the next time I upload a video, if I ever upload a video ever again. Hopefully that will happen pretty soon. Things have really started to settle down at work, and I'm not spending as much extra time doing development. So hopefully I'll have some time here to start putting out some more content, because honestly, content is what grows the channel. I love doing the live streams. This is what I prefer. I love interacting with you all. But if we want the channel to grow, which that's one of the goals for 2024, then I got to put out actual content. I haven't been doing that very much lately, so we've kind of hit a bit of a slide in the growth of the channel. We had some good progress early on, but now it's kind of slowed down. So that's on me, obviously, for not getting that content. I know I've heard from many of you guys about different videos that I put out, and I even talked to somebody here this week, one-on-one, who was telling me that they kind of found me through one of my videos. So I know that stuff's necessary, even though this may not be the most important thing on my list. So I'm going to try to do better at getting stuff out for that as well. But hit the like button on the live stream, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you're not subscribed. Also, don't forget to join the Discord channel if you are part of the DeepPockets project, or if you want to be. Jump in the Discord channel, or Discord server channel. I always use those things wrong, but there's multiple channels in the Discord server for Dev Mentor Dave. So jump in there and interact with other junior devs, some senior devs, me whenever I get a chance as well. Feel free to ask questions. Get help that you need in there. That's exactly what that's for. So take advantage of that. Those of you who have won the coffee mugs, I am close to getting those ordered. I've been working on, first of all, trying to find a company that will let me do the number of coffee mugs that I want to do. I only want to get like 5 of them because I want one. And that's been kind of a pain in the rear, and then getting all the art and stuff in. So once I get those ordered, I will contact you all and get your addresses. I've already got somebody hit me up with their address already, which is great. So if you want a coffee mug, I'll be in contact with you shortly, hopefully this coming week, to get your address information. It might be a few weeks by the time we get it ordered and get it to me, and then I get it shipped out to you guys. Most of them, I think most of the winners, not all of them, are from overseas. So I'm going to probably have to ship them myself rather than go through the actual company that does it. So those are in progress, but it's probably going to be a while before you get them. I apologize for that. That's what happens when you just kind of come up with rewards on the fly and don't have it all planned out. So hopefully that'll be ready to go next week sometime, and I can get all that information from you and get that pushed out. So one more thing before we dive in here, and that is just a reminder that we are trying to reach 5,000 subscribers by the end of 2024. I ran the numbers this morning. Basically, we need to average about 16 new subscribers. Again, that's mostly on me because I haven't been putting out a lot of content lately. So, but if you can help with that by sharing the content that we have out there and commenting and liking and all those fun things, that does help the channel grow. So I appreciate it. Anything that you guys can do to help us get this information out to more people, because at the end of the day, growing the channel is not really about me. It's not really about me being a big YouTube star or something like that. It's more about getting out in front of junior developers who need to hear the information that we're talking about. There's lots of channels out there that are giving out great information, but not all of them cover necessarily the same things that we do. Our goal is to provide as much as we can a mentoring type presence, not just a tutorial show, channel or things like that. So that's what we're trying to do here. And if you find it helpful, those of you who are watching live obviously do to some degree. I appreciate that. Feel free to share it with other people so we can build up and try to hit our 5,000 subscriber goal, which if we do, there will be some sort of weird celebration live stream where Mel has convinced me to bake a cake. So I don't know how that's going to go or how that's going to happen, but I have mostly committed to doing that if we actually hit that goal. So the way it was going early on, I thought we were going to hit it like in June, but things kind of slowed down and I slowed down. So there's that. All right. Don't forget your nice warm coffee. This is actually really hot because I just brewed it. Usually no, not carrot cake, Mel. Real cake. Carrot cake is nasty. Whoever came up with carrot, vegetables should not be dessert. Okay, can I just say that vegetables should not be dessert? All right, let's just leave it at that. But I do have fresh coffee, so that's the important thing. All right, we've got a few people jumping in the chat here. I used to like cheesecake. I'm not a big cheesecake fan, and that sounds like a lot of work. I can just do a box cake a whole lot easier, I think. Most likely. All right, let's see. Mel's here. Welcome. Ming, good to see you. O'Neill, good to see you. Let's see. Ali, hello, Ali, good to see you. Let's see, somebody said something here. Oh, awesome, Ming. You've got another interview on Monday. That's awesome. Good to hear it. Hopefully you can kind of take some of that experience again into that interview process and help you be able to interview them even better. I think I did a video on this before, or at least I've talked about it before. But when you're in an interview, you're not the only one being interviewed. Really, you're interviewing the company as well to make sure that they're the type of company that's going to help you as a junior developer, be successful, right? So you want to make sure that you're interviewing them as well, and you're kind of, not that you're being rude, but you want to ask questions that are going to help you determine if that's a good company for you. So that's awesome. Absolutely. All right, so good to see you guys here. Welcome back. If anybody else jumps in, hopefully they let us know that they're watching live, and we can say hello and interact with them along the way. So that's all the welcome stuff. Of course, took about 10 minutes, as it always does. Project update. So if you were not here before, if you were not here last week, basically, we have assigned some initial tickets. I am working on putting together more tickets as we start getting the project rolling with actual work. So if you have not been assigned a ticket and you do not, and you want to participate in the actual development process of the DeepPockets project, let me know in the Discord channel. Don't leave it here in the chat. Put it in the Discord channel. The actual DeepPockets, I think it's DeepPockets Updates or something like that, is the channel name in the Dev Mentor Dave Discord server. So let me know there. And if you haven't sent me your GitHub information, send that to me just so I know how to connect you to the project and how and assign it. So welcome, Muhammad. Hopefully I said that correctly. Sometimes there's different emphases in the names, so hopefully that's right. But let me just pop over here just so I can show everybody. So here's the project board. Like I said, we have several tickets that have been assigned. So if you have not been assigned a ticket and you wanted one, please let me know. That way we can get that in there and get everybody participating in the project that wants to be a participant in the project. So we're finally writing code. We're finally getting things to the point where we're actually building this thing for once. So yay, we're actually building the project. So hopefully everybody's good with that, with the tickets that you're given. One of the things that I wanted to do today, I think you have Ming. I think this is you. Here, let me go back. I think this is you down here, if I'm correct. So let me know. I don't know. I probably just covered you up. There you go. Yeah. So create budget list, React. Okay, cool. So you are assigned, so that's good. So what I wanted to do today, I know nobody's really done anything. You might have started on your tickets, but nobody's pushed up a PR or anything, so there's nothing really to review yet. So what I thought about doing today is taking a different piece of the application and just kind of building it out real quickly. I'm not going to do everything that is in all of these tickets, but I wanted to just kind of walk through how I would do it, how I would approach it, kind of from start to finish. Now, what I'm going to do today has been broken up into several pieces just to make it easier for people to do parts of it. As somebody mentioned in the Discord channel, some of these tickets are dependent on other tickets. And so I want to go through this process so that those of you who have maybe some tickets that are dependent on other tickets, you can have something to kind of help you maybe set up routes and things like that, so you know how to set things up so you can test your own tickets that might be dependent on things earlier in the process. So plus, I think walking through this, it will be a good reminder for everyone of kind of how everything works. It'll be a good reminder for you as far as how to do your tickets if you've got one of the earlier tickets. So hopefully this won't just be me doing it for you. I'm going to do different things, but I want to go through kind of the same process and flow. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to build out very simply, a page that has a listing, right? Because that's what we've got here. If I go back to, let me go back to our design. Those of you who may not have been here before, this is the design that we have here. So this is just for this initial page. We'll add more designs as we go. This was kind of the base design though. We're just using the base layouts from not base layouts, the base color schemes and the base settings for the MUI component library. We're not doing a whole lot of extra theming and things like that because we don't really, I don't have the time to make it prettier. And I want to try to keep it as simple as possible so everybody kind of learns new things without it being extremely overwhelming, right? So that is the goal of the project. We want to learn new things without it being super overwhelming. Who just jumped in here? Is that Ollie? I don't know. It just says anonymous. Thought the A might be. All right. Which of you is in here? Tell me now. So we've got somebody jumped in here already from a ticket. But so this is the basic layout. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to build out everything here this morning. I'm just going to kind of focus on the main things as if this table were my ticket. All right. So my ticket is going to be building out a table, and I'm going to do the accounts, right? So it's just going to be the accounts table. I don't need all the other things in order to do this ticket. But I am going to need some things in order to do this ticket. So that's what I want to kind of walk through today, is to give you an idea of what are the things that you're going to need in order to do kind of one of these later tickets in the process. So hopefully that all makes sense. Okay. Let's see. So again, I'm going to do accounts, or at least an initial accounts, and it's just going to be the listing table. I might add a header too. We'll see. But I'm going to go through the process and show you interacting with the Figma designs, interacting with the documentation, because honestly, there's just things that I don't remember, even though I do this a lot. And we're just going to kind of walk through this process, and hopefully it'll help kind of jog your memory of how to do things here in Laravel, and even in React. And we'll find out if I'm doing React correctly, for all of you that know React better than I do. So there you go. All right, so we're going to dive in here. Let me see. I don't think you ever did a component in a live stream. That is true. I don't think I did. I did the initial setup of React and how we're doing that, but I don't think I actually built a component in React in a live stream. So that'll be a new one. There you go. All right. And again, this will be super straightforward and simple. And I'm going to have to remember how to do it too, because I've been in the Next.js world for a while and we're not using Next on this. So I don't think it'll be terrible, but we might run into some fun things here today, and you'll see how bad of a developer I actually am. So let me get some coffee and then we'll dive in here. Yeah, I mean, this is definitely like an MVP. This is not, we're not building a massive verbose thing. This will be eventually a community project that's out there on GitHub that will not be private eventually. So people can just, because the goal is for us to build something for developers to pull down and budget on their machine, not some cloud-based thing where all their information is everywhere, but just there on their machine. They can run it when they want to. But then they have the opportunity to tweak it and make it better for themselves if they want. So that's kind of the idea. So we're just kind of building out an MVP here. So there we go. Okay, let's dive in. It's just nerve-wracking for me when I write code live. This is why you should never. This is why I hate when companies do live tests. Live coding tests, because it's not an ideal situation to write code live for people, unless you're just like really, really good at it, which I am not. Okay, so here's our basic application at the moment. Not a whole lot going on there. It says this is the app content. And in case you were wondering where that's coming from, let me bump this up a little bit so you guys can see the code here. Okay. That's coming from our resources, JS. And in the app.js file, we've loaded this components app file, right? So we're loading that down here. This is just a function to help us load. And what this function does, if you don't remember, this should allow us to have multiple components on a page if we need to. So for example, if we could have components in different blade templates, if we wanted to do that. So I'm kind of leaving that out there for people to try. So that's where our component is. So right here, this is the app content, right? So that's where we're getting that information from right here. This is the app content. Nothing crazy there. Okay, so when we think about Laravel, we think about how we need to build a page, right? So the first thing that I'm going to do is I need to build some page that I'm going to use to host my my table that I'm going to be creating here. All right, so I know I'm going to be creating a table. That table has to be in a component. That component needs to be inside some page, right? So we need to be able to have a page that hosts that component, and we need to be able to navigate to that page. All right, so we'll jump into how that all works. I will try to keep an eye on the chat here for if you guys have questions. Don't forget, if you do have a question for specifically for me, do have at DevMentorDave or lots of question marks, or do something that makes it obvious so it catches my attention when I glance down there. So let's see. Oh, hey, Cyan Dog. Good to see you. Mel says, I love that you do it live. I find tutorials hard to follow because they don't run into any problems. You need to see the problems and how to fix them. Yes, absolutely. And hopefully you see both the problem and how to fix it. Otherwise, we're all in trouble. Okay. So in Laravel, if you remember, we need to set up a route, and that route will route us to a view, right? And a view is basically a blade template in Laravel. So we're going to go through and build that out right now. So I'm going to actually instead of, I think the tickets for this one, this is going to be our main homepage. So it'll just be a slash route. We're going to do a route that is specifically for accounts. So I'm going to build an actual account that goes to accounts page. All right. So let's move over here, and I'm going to go to routes. I wouldn't necessarily do it exactly in this order, but we're just kind of thinking through the process as we go here. All right. So I'm going to go to routesweb.php, and that's going to be my basic routes. So if we see here, we see that right now the root route is returning a view called welcome. We could do this several different ways. The way that we typically do it at the job that I work for is we actually return controllers from our routes, and I'm kind of vacillating on how we want to do that. Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it the way that I usually do it. I don't think there's not necessarily a perfect right way. That's one of the things I love about Laravel, is you can kind of do things different ways. But our controllers are here in the HTTP app HTTP controllers section. We have the basic controller. We have a welcome.php controller, which is interesting. Oh, we created this before. So one of the things that we would do is we would have a welcome controller. And typically here you're going to have, Laravel has some generally specific method naming conventions for their controllers. We'll look at that here in just a second. Generally for a list controller, it's going to be index. For a specific entity or resource, it's going to be show, especially when it comes to like web controllers. Generally what I like to do is I like to have the web controllers here in the main controller section, and then have our API controllers, or really more what Laravel calls resource controllers. I prefer to have those in an API subdirectory. So that's just, again, this is the way that I like to lay it out. I would prefer that we do it this way in the project. Doesn't have to be done this way, you know. So again, take some of my conventions with a grain of salt, and some of them, you know, treat them like gospel. and I'll let you choose which ones. There's that. Okay, so let's jump over here, and I like using the command line. I've been really bad about using it over the years, and I'm trying to get better myself at using the command line. So this is just something, this is personal growth stuff, right? So this is stuff that we all have to do throughout our career. So I'm going to come back over here and just make sure I've got the command correct. So PHP artisan make controller and then the controller name. All right, so let me come back over here to this guy. Now, if you remember, I'm in Sail, which is a local development environment in Docker. You may not be in Sail, you may be in Herd, or you may be doing something locally with your setup, so it may look a little bit different. The documentation there said PHP artisan. I'm actually going to do Sail artisan. Because I'm going into the Docker container and running this command. So I'm doing Sail artisan make controller, and I'm going to name this, what am I building? Account. I'm trying to remember, do they do singular? Yeah, they do. Okay. So account controller, and I'm just going to run that and hope it works. All right, so we've got in our app HTTP controllers, we have an account controller.php file. So we should go see if that's there. There it is in green. Now this doesn't automatically add any methods to it. There are some commands that you could put into that controller command. Specifically, I think it's resource is the flag, and that'll give you all the resource potential methods. But for now, we're just going to do public function, if I can type, index. All right, so public function index, this will be for our listing. And this is the only one that I need here because, again, my ticket is only specifically talking about the listing on the accounts page, right? So this is a lot of setup to do for getting to that one thing. So you wouldn't necessarily have to do all this. You could probably just build the component and put it in something else. But other people have other tickets, so I want to go through the kind of the whole flow of how you would build all this out. All right. Now we're going to return. Hello, return. I think it's view. Here. Oh, yeah, there we go. All right. So it's not a class. And we'll name the view. Let's do this. Let's do accounts / index. All right. So that's going to be our file name. Now that doesn't exist yet. So we're going to go to our views directory and build an account directory and an index. So let me come back down here to resources. So we've got app is up here with some of the other controllers, but in that same level, we've got resources here. All right. So resources, views, and we've only got one file in here. It's the welcome.blade.php. Blade is the templating system that Laravel kind of uses out of the box. So I'm going to do plus, and I'm going to do account / index.blade.php. All right, so that just gave me the directory, and it gave me index.blade.php. All right, let's go look at this welcome blade real fast and just see what's there. There's all kinds of boilerplate stuff. You can't even see because it's just too big. And my IDE is doing weird things. Here, let's see if I can back it out. I don't know why it's doing that. That's odd. Huh. Anyway, as you can see over here, there's lots of stuff that's in this file that we don't need, so we're not really going to worry about that. Let's just copy some of this stuff out into our index blade, just so it's a little bit more normal. Let's get a body in here. Okay. So now we've got a page. We could do something like hello, and we'll save that. Okay. So we've got an account controller with an index, and that index is pointing to this account / index blade template. Notice we didn't have to type blade and PHP here. It just automatically knows what we're doing because we're pulling a view, right? So we know we're pulling blade.php. And we should be able to go to this route once we add the route. All right, so we've got a controller, we've got a view. Now let's add the route to go to that view. Oh, we're over here. Boop. We already have it open. Okay, so let's do route. Actually, yeah, we'll do route controller. And this is where we'll type in, think here. I don't remember off the top of my head. Let's do, wait, I want routes. Routing. This is why you get to know your documentation, because if you have good documentation, you don't have to remember everything. So I prefer doing my route groups by the controller. So I'm going to copy this guy in here. Come back over here. There we go. And this will be the account controller. I'm going to import that class up here. Come on. Import class. Class not found. Hang on a second. Oh, hang on. It helps if you name it the same thing. There we go. All right, now that's pulled in. We don't really need this one because we don't have that in here anymore. All right, so we're going to put all of the routes that are going to hit this specific controller. We're going to put them in this group. It just makes it easier to find the routes a lot of times. Sometimes you can do it by prefix. Maybe that's a little bit easier. But if everything's mostly pointing to the same controller, then it's a lot easier to just make it based on the controller, in my opinion. Okay, so we're just going to do accounts index. And we'll get rid of this one. Okay, so what we're saying is we're on the account route. We want to pull the index method from the account controller. All right, so we're grouping all the routes under this specific controller, and we're going to call this method when this route is hit. All right, and just to make sure we've got that method correct, we have a method index here. There's other things you can do with routes. We're not going to dig into that right now, but let's see. Let's see if it works. Okay, so we want to come over here, localhost / accounts. Boom. Hello. That's exactly what we want. All right. We're starting off good, guys. We're starting off good. I need some more coffee. Let's see if anybody's saying anything here before we jump in further. Let's see. Okay. That scared me for a second, Mel. I thought I was going to have to do all that all over again. She said that she couldn't see, but thankfully it was her problem and not me. How do I know what to type into the browser? That's a good question. Okay. So I'm just making sure you're talking about this, right? So for me, localhost is how I have my development environment set up. So if I go over here, when I ran sail, it told me that it's running on localhost. So it says right here, app URL localhost. Now, if I had set something else up to run it on a different domain, then it should show me that domain. So right now, this tells me this is my root domain, right? Now, how did I know to go to accounts? Well, I created that route here, right? So I created this get route. So all of these in the web are going to be get routes. Generally, unless you're like posting data to a specific web route, typically we're not going to do that. But you might find yourself doing that actually. So, but most of the time in the web.php route file, you're going to be defining routes that you'll type into your browser or that you'll link to. All right. So with this, it says / accounts. So we know that we just type in / accounts. We created that specific route. So that's how we knew that we could go there. So once you have, that's a good question. So with XAMPP, once you have the application in that directory, so let's say it's in, like for example, XAMPP is oftentimes something like localhost, um, and then your project name, so like DeepPockets, and then that would be your root, right? So for if you had created this route, then you would go to accounts, like that. So it kind of depends on the structure of your application in XAMPP, and how you have it set up. But typically, it's going to be with XAMPP. Usually, it's going to be localhost, or they might have the like 8080 or something like that. If I could type. So it might look something like this, where you've got localhost 8080. You just have to check with XAMPP and see how it's set up as your root to that public web directory. And then typically, unless you put everything in that public directory, if you put it into a subfolder like a project folder like DeepPockets, it's going to look more like this when you create that route. You should not have to write with Laravel. You should not have to write .php at the end, because Laravel handles the routing for you. So when we create this route here, Laravel is already looking at that. Technically, what's happening is Laravel's taking this route and it's actually routing it through. Where's it at? Did they remove it? They must have removed it. Yeah. So Laravel's taking care of the routing. I'm thinking of CodeIgniter from years ago. But it's taking that path and it's recognizing it and it's pushing out the content that should be there, right? And so it handles all of that information for you, so you don't have to designate a specific file. If you're just writing a basic PHP application that's not leaning on a framework like this, then yeah, you would want to type in, your accounts.php. And in fact, really, what would happen is you would be probably typing in something more like localhost resources /views /accounts /index /index.php, right? So if you were building this from scratch and that was your directory structure, then you would have to put PHP in it, or if it's depending on how your web server is set up, you might just be able to do this and it would automatically load the index.php file. But let's say you did like list.php, right? So if you were doing something like that, you would have to hit it directly. But when you're using a framework like Laravel handles all that routing so that you can just type in a kind of a normal web route like this, and it loads the information based on the routing structure that we gave it. All right. All right. Oops. So hopefully that helps you out a little bit and makes a little bit more sense. If you're new to PHP and you're new to Laravel, this might be a little bit confusing because you'll learn certain things in PHP that Laravel just takes care of. So that's one of the beauties of a framework, is that it takes care of some of the monotonous things that are tedious and a pain to do. Not necessarily difficult, but a pain to do. So hopefully that helps, Mel. Let's see. Awesome. That's awesome. If that helps you get to where you need to be, perfect. Ollie says, I have done the budget controller as given in the ticket, but the method index required returns view of budget list, which is made using React. Let me read that again. View of budget list. I'm not sure. If you can, hey Ali, if you can throw me like a screenshot in the Discord server, and I could take a look at that even while we're on here potentially. So, and I might be able to see what the issue is. Or if you have it pushed up in a PR. Send me the link and I'll take a look at that. Okay, so we've got a route, we've got a controller for our web route, and that controller is pointing to this view file here. So we've got everything set up to hit that. And again, I'm not going to go through and build out this entire UI. All right, we're just going to come in here, and I'm going to put in a little bit of React stuff, and just so we can get some React components on the page and see what that looks like here. Okay, so let me do this. Let's go MUI, because I should have pulled that up earlier. Components. Okay, so I've got that up so I can pull information in. Again, this is literally what I do. Like, I don't have to memorize everything because there's good documentation for the things that we're doing. So I don't have to remember everything. I can just go find it when I need it. And the more I do it, the faster I am at looking for it, because I know what I'm looking for, even though I don't remember the exact syntax for everything that I'm doing at the time. But let's jump in and build a quick React component. So we go to resources, JS, and components. And this is just kind of a very simple one. So I'm just going to copy paste this, make my life a little bit easier. Come back to components, create, we'll do account. Oops. Let's do, let's make a directory, accounts slash account list. Man, I cannot type today. .jsx, boom. Okay, we'll put this in here. Let's do this. I'm gonna do grid, just because I like grids. And we're gonna do container. I've been doing this a lot lately, so I may run through this a little fast. So feel free to ask questions if I'm doing things too fast. So we'll do grid, item, and I'm just going to have one item in this for now. I just like the container thing with it. It just makes life easier for me. We'll see if it actually works though, because since I don't have like a layout. Again, I've not been doing this. I've been doing this a lot in Next.js, so we'll see what Next takes care of that I'm forgetting here. Okay, so we'll just do, this is the accounts table. All right, boom. We'll leave the box there because we might use it later. All right, so we've got, and let's name this here. So we've got account list. All right, so that's our function. Save that. Okay, so we've got an account list. Let's add it to our app.js file. So load component. And we're going to put this. So we're specifying the ID. So we're specifying an ID inside like a div or something like that. Right, so we'll just do this. We'll do account list. All right, and then we're going to pass in the actual component. Oops. All right, and we'll need to pull that in. So import app list, or not app list, account list. There we go. All right, so all that should be set up. Now we need to go back to our blade template, because if you remember, we don't have anything in here that's calling that file. We're trying to hook this account list to this ID. So let's create a div inside our blade template. Let's just do div ID equals account list. All right, so we've got a div in here, and theoretically, if everything works as expected, we should be able to just see our component load here, because it should find the account list, div ID, and I forget if it replaces it. I think it replaces it with with this. It renders it inside that ID. All right, so let's come back over here. We'll go to our accounts again, enter. Nothing happened. That's good. There you go. There you go, Mel. There's one for the day. All right, account dash list, console. Console errors? Nope, no console errors. Well, that's annoying. Oh, I think I know what the issue is. Hang on one second here. Let me go to the welcome blade. So we need to have our HTML, we need to have our JavaScript actually called inside the head. So let me copy these things in here from Vite. Let's see, and we'll go back over to our index. So typically what you would do is you would maybe have all your head stuff in one blade file, and you would include that blade file in your other blade file, so you don't have to do this in every single blade file. But for this morning, we will do it in here because we're being a little lazy. All right. Oh, that's the wrong place. Hang on. Okay. Now let's try it. Boom. There we go. Okay. So it helps to actually run JavaScript methods on the page so that you can display your JavaScript. So there you go. Okay, accounts table. So if we look at this, we can see that we've got an MUI grid, and inside that we've got a div that is just an item, a grid item, and inside that we have our accounts table. I think somebody has a blade file ticket already. They should. Let's see. My ticket is backend, so method I would make should return a view which is made by the front end. So how it works. So typically the views that are for pages. So this is kind of how I view it. When you're writing the web route, then you should create the basic view that web route pulls, right? And then the front end will do more the actual like front end pieces of that. So I typically, when I'm doing back-end work, if it's split out, typically I'll build the view file, but I won't populate it with a bunch of stuff. I'll just create the file so that it's there and so that the front end can build it in. So yeah, you don't want to error, because you don't want to build a route that's just going to error out. You want to have it actually return something. So typically if you're building the route, if I'm splitting up the work, typically whoever's building the route should build the blade template as well for that route to return, whether that's from the route itself or whether that's from the component that's being made as well. So I would say, Ali, I would have you actually just create that that file so that it doesn't error out, but you don't need to like fill anything into it, right? If you want to put like some something in there just to show that the route is working, that's fine, but you shouldn't need to do anything more than that. But that helps the front end just be able to build the front end and put their stuff into the route, into the file that's already created. So that's typically how I do it when I'm splitting up work. Honestly, the company that I currently work for, most of us are full stack developers, so we kind of do a whole chunk at a time, so it's not a big deal. But sometimes we do split up the work, and when we do that, typically if there's a route that needs to be created, I'll have the person creating the route create the initial blade template for that. Yeah, so inside your route file, you're either calling a component or you're calling a view. So I would just have you create that view, Ali. And again, it doesn't have to have anything really in it more than hello or maybe the name of whatever it is you're building the route for or something like that. But I would have you create that blade template and then put it in there. So let me see. Let me just look at the tickets here. Let me look at yours. Yeah, so the first ticket that I have you create here is a web controller, which is what we did a few minutes ago. And it says that controller should have two methods. It should return a budget list view file. So I don't think, Yeah, this ticket is dependent on the budget list view. So somebody, that's my bad. I should have had you create that view. So who's got this? Jay Carlos. So I haven't talked to Jay Carlos. So if you want to just do that, Ali, we might get rid of this ticket because I don't know if he's actually working this or not. There were a few people on this list that were here before, so I would go ahead and build that view just so, again, so it doesn't error out. Okay, so we've got our accounts table showing. Let's see if there's anything else that I'm missing in communications. Mel says, what about the tickets that are to build the view? Should they wait for the route to be made or create the view and whoever gets in last edits their part to make it work? Yeah, typically. So again, we're kind of breaking it down a little bit more granular than I normally would just to kind of get people into the process here. So usually like Ali would have more pieces to that in his ticket. So that would not be an issue. But I would say build what you need to get your stuff visible, right? So build what you need to get your stuff visible. And then once we're ready to merge it in, you can always remove the things that are unnecessary because you should merge in things that have been merged into the main branch anyway. So as we go, so as tickets get merged in, you'll want to merge main into your feature branch. So that's typically the process that we'll use. But while you're testing, and working on your thing, build what you need to in order to get it running. So, or just wait. You can get started on it, and then you can just wait for somebody else to finish their stuff so you can test it. It's always a good excuse when you're waiting on somebody else, right? So there's that. But yeah, the ticket to build the view is actually out there, but I'll go ahead and take that, and we may just reassign that ticket in the future. All right. Again, this is a little bit odd because I didn't want to overwhelm everybody right away with big tickets. And so there's going to be a little bit of stepping on toes here that normally we wouldn't do in a project with multiple team members. So usually you would have things sectioned out a little bit more clearly so that people aren't interacting with each other's code as much or waiting on each other as much. But this is kind of a little bit of a unique situation, just making sure people are feeling comfortable here. So, okay, so we've got our view, we've got our route, our web route, we've got our controller, we've got our view, we've got our component that is loading inside that view. So now we just need to actually make the component that we're really looking for, right? So let's go back to our account list component. So I'm going to do, let's just for fun here, we'll do typography variant. We'll do H1 is just always so big. I think it's, well, let's go here. Let's take a look at this. This guy. What are we doing up here? So I'm going to click in here and click on the name. And so I'm using, I don't know if you guys can see this or not. Oh, that's not helpful. Can I make this bigger? I want this bigger. No, of course not. Anyway, over here, you can't hardly see this for some reason, and I don't know why it's not letting me make it bigger. It's just taking my commands and ignoring them. It's only here. Hang on, let's try. Nope, that's only for that. Okay, well, oh well. All right, so over here, whoop, I gotta click on this again. So it says typography/H5. So we're going to use the H5 variant to get it to look like this. All right. So, and again, this is actually a separate ticket, but I want something that looks at least a little bit better. So we'll do H5 and we'll do accounts. Let's just do bank accounts just for fun. All right. We'll save that and reload. Oh, it's hot reloading. Sweet. Okay. So we've got bank accounts. So that's a little bit more like this design over here. I'm not real worried about the font at the moment. The font's a little bit different, but we can deal with that later. Maybe it's not. I don't know. It's hard to tell. Okay. So we've got budgets. Let's do, what is this? Typography body 2. So we'll do that. So underneath this, we've got typography variant equals body 2. And we'll just do these are your current bank accounts. Just for a description there. Bada bing. Okay. And I'm sure there's some design elements that we could change. Text is secondary. I forget. Is it well, let's find out. Typography. Let's see what we've got. Colors. Colors, contrastation. Don't care about that. Variant component, page 2. Blah, 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 blah. What is colors? Font color. Is it just color? Can't believe I don't remember this. Color, picking colors, and color button. Primary, secondary. What does this say here? It's secondary. Okay, so we should be able to do color. And don't need that. Just do secondary. See if that works. Oh, that's lovely. That's not really the right color. Oh well, we'll leave it for now. We might come back to that. Okay, so we've got a grid item here, and inside this, that's not spelled correctly. There we go. I wonder if that makes any difference. It does not. Perfect. Okay. So we've got a container. Let's do, just for kicks, let's do give it a size of 12, just so it takes up the whole width. We'll copy that. And now we're going to build a table. So let's see what the table is. Looks like here there's kind of multiple components, if I remember correctly, for a table in MUI. Yeah, Ali, go ahead and make a pull request if you've got that. That'd be awesome. Okay, so here's a basic table, and we can open up the code here and see what is involved. Okay, so we're gonna do table container, table role, table body. Here, we'll just copy this. This is what I love about component libraries. You just copy stuff and make it a whole lot easier on yourself. Let's close out the table and close out the table container. There we go. Save that. Get it formatted right. Okay, so we've got a body, we've got a row. In accounts, we're just going to list out, so we're going to have an account page, and then we'll have an account column, account name column, and then we'll have a an actions column, which we're not going to build out the actions today. That's not part of any of the tickets that are out there right now. But basically, we're going to have 2 cells. So we'll have an account name and don't need that. And we'll have actions. And actions will be empty for now. All right, and then eventually we're going to get some content in here. All right, so what I would do is okay, just so I know, leave a note for myself as to what's going on. Uh-oh, something broke. Do we have any warnings in here? Might help if I include some things. Taking the suggestions. Boom. All right, now we've got some stuff included. See if it loads now. It does not. What is going on? All right, console. Let's see. See what the console has to say. Paper is not defined. Of course, paper is not defined. Let's see. Do paper. Clear this out. What do we got? Table body is not defined. Okay. I thought we pulled that in. Oh, we didn't pull that in. Boom. Okay. There we go. So now we've got bank accounts. We've got our subtitle, which doesn't look very good. Let's see. What's it complaining about now? Nothing. Okay, good. And then we've got our table here. All right. Now, I don't think any of the tickets have React layout component. Blade. Add this component to the blade file. Paper layout, title description, other components we added. All right, so we're not worrying about pulling anything in right now, but just so that we can see that it's actually showing things correctly, let's add a few items to this. All right, so we'll do something like this. We'll do to do. All right. And here we'll do table row. And in that table row, we'll do table cell. Main account. All right, and then we'll do table cell, and that'll just be empty for our actions. All right, and we could do this just to make sure it's actually working, and we can see that it's actually showing the stuff that we're looking for, so that's good. Mel, do you have to add in each and every tag? Generally, I think you do, unless... I mean, I always have. I don't know if you can do like a... I don't think you would want to do this because you only want to pull in the things that you want. So I don't know if you can do... Can you do star? I don't think so. Yeah. So I don't know of a way to pull in everything just automatically. That could be something maybe somebody who knows React better than I do can tell us. Ended up not using box, so that's fun. And usually once this gets to a certain width, you'd want to format this to where it's longer rather than wider. But that is our table. And of course we could come in here, we could do some other things like let's set up a const account list equals, we can just set up this and go with something like name equals main account. Man, if I could type, someday I'm going to learn to type and things are going to be fabulous. I'll actually be able to do this whole programming thing. Vacation account, oops. Credit card account. We'll call this savings. Savings. Investing. Boom. And then we could just come down here. Let's do is that right? Why doesn't it like that? What's it complaining about? Otherwise, TD and element. Must have one parent element. Hang on. We're going to get rid of this. There we go. All right, and inside here we're going to do count dot name. Come on. All right. Bada bing. And there we go. All right. So we can see. Oh, yeah. Good grief. Table row key. We'll do count name just for fun. There's no other key items in there. Clear. Refresh. Boom. There we go. Okay. So each component, for example, if you make a component that uses table, do you still import it even though it's already imported enough? Yes. So you do have to import anything that you're using in this component. Generally, you have to import. There might be some global components you can set up. I know in Vue, you can set up global components. So I would assume you can do that in React as well. But I have to look that up because I haven't used that. Generally, we just pull in whatever we need in that specific component. The idea is that you want components to be fairly atomic, meaning you want them to be as small as possible. I'm not 100% on board with that. But I get the concepts and the ideas around it. But so in the future, what we'd want is a count list would be populated by an API call, right? And then that would update this value, probably using state of some sort. But this gives us basically what we're looking for. So here's our account list, and this is annoying. I don't know why. This says it's secondary. Maybe let's try. Yeah, I always forget how to do colors. I don't know why colors are so hard in this. Huh. Unless it's like text secondary. Let's see. We're going to learn as we go. How's that? Not customization. That's not what I want. I don't want theme. Font face. This really isn't giving me, so we've got font size and the typography. That's theming. I don't want to deal with theming. I don't want to deal with theming. I just want to know colors. Nope. Color red. I don't want to do it through a theme. Stop with the themes. Let's see what it says here. Class secondary main. Let's try Stack Overflow. Come to rescue a Stack Overflow. Variant H3. I don't want to set it. I don't want. This is dumb. Who decided this is a good way to do things? Color common dot white. Common dot white. Let's try adding color common. It's two M's. Dot gray. Closer. Or it's not accepting anything. Let's see. Let's go back to this. Common dot white. Where's it getting that from? I don't know where it's getting that from. Let's see what it's pointing to. Common. Secondary. Secondary dot light shade, maybe? Well, no, secondary is giving us that weird purple. Now it's not doing anything. I don't know. I probably have to do something with the theme. That's annoying. No, it's not showing purple at all. Am I changing the right thing? Color, secondary. Secondary. Yeah, there's the purple. Dot. Light shade. Let's try main shade. It doesn't like that. Not either. All right. Well, we'll just stick with. We'll stick with secondary for now. All right. So there's that. So we have an ability. Now, again, this doesn't have all the design yet, but this allows me to at least test that my component is set up and displaying and showing the way that it should. So when the other things are developed, I can pull this in, I can pull their code in, and then I can add my code to the blade template that Ali's going to pull in, right? So, excuse me, let's see. Did you already push that in? The other question I have is, if you are working on this, can somebody try to move their ticket to in progress and see if it works? I just want to make sure that you guys can move your tickets as expected. So you should be able to go from ready to in progress to in review when you create a PR. So that'll also just be a way to help me see where everybody's at. So if somebody wants to jump in there and see if they can move it. Does it not do it? It's not loading for me. Oh, there we go. All right, cool. Sweet. All right, so if you're actively working on your ticket, if you would move your tickets over to in progress, that would just really help me know what is being worked on. So if I need to reassign something, I can do that. So definitely move those tickets over for me so I can see what's going on in the process there. All right, so that's just kind of the basic walkthrough of how we get from nothing really to kind of testing out your tickets locally if stuff isn't built out yet. Again, it doesn't have to have the full thing. You just need to be able to test what you're specifically working on. And we are going to talk about some methods of automated testing in the coming weeks, because I think it's important that we add that as well, just to make sure that we have some good clarity around how well we're writing code and whether or not things break over time. And I think it's good for you guys to learn how to write testing, and I'll kind of share some of my philosophy of testing too as we get into that. But hopefully this at least gives you an idea of how to get to a place where you can see, especially if you're further down the line, you're doing like React components. Hopefully this helps you see kind of how you can get there to be able to set up and practice and show what you're actually working on, not just hope that it works or just wait for everybody else to get the back-end stuff ready to go. So again, that didn't take too long. It took about an hour to get that up and running. And again, the tickets are broken down really granularly just to give everybody a little bit of kind of flow to get used to it. So if you want to pull this up again and as you're going back through and follow through and build it out with me, hopefully you can skip over the parts where I messed up and do it right the first time for you. So there you go. So that's the basic process from a request coming in to the browser to the Laravel framework, taking that route, getting the information from the controller, putting the view out there, and then making sure that you render the JavaScript component, the React component on the page. So again, obviously that's all going to change and grow as we add the actual layouts to the project. So that'll be fun once we get there. But yeah, so that's the basic process of getting to where you can start working on the code that you specifically are assigned. So if there is a ticket that sits out there here, coming next week and that nobody's working on, feel free to grab it if you want it. Like I said, there's a couple of these tickets that I assigned to people who signed up a while back but may not be following along with us now. So I want to make sure that we don't wait on people who are not actually actively involved in the process. So We are going to review and merge at least every weekend when we do the live stream. I probably won't do a lot of reviewing between now and then because I want to use this time to actually review it live so that people can see what other people are doing, how other people are approaching things, and get some feedback in that process there with more verbal explanation than just a typed, hey, do it this way. So that's one of the nice things about being able to do this from like a live stream perspective is we can kind of talk through the issue if we find one, then just leaving a big comment in there to try and explain it extra. Because really, when you're on a team, hopefully you get a PR review and then they explain it to you in person, or you can go ask them a question in person. And it's a little bit more difficult when we're not together on the team or we're together via the internet. So that's why I think having the live stream here is going to help with that process. So the plan is to do that kind of at the beginning of every week. And then if we need like an instructive piece, we'll go that route. But then we'll also be talking about what the next pieces of the project are going to be and things like that. So that's going to kind of be what the bulk of that first hour is going to be for our process moving forward, at least through the end of the year. That may change a little bit at the beginning of next year as we look at what other things we might want to do with the live stream, or perhaps more than one live stream. It just depends on where things are at for me as well. So we'll see how that goes. But I will be creating more tickets along the way as well as we start seeing tickets worked on and merged in. There's a couple of tickets here, obviously, that you can see that I had started that'll probably change, and I'll add more. Once they're ready to be worked, I'll move them into the ready section and I'll assign them. Excuse me. I'll assign them as necessary as we go. So hopefully that all makes sense to everybody. Yeah, so that's basically everything that I wanted to go through for today. Any questions on the project itself before we just open it up for any other questions? If anybody has anything else, project management stuff. See if anybody's got anything here. Or anything you want me to go back over. I know I went through some of that pretty quickly. The goal, it really isn't to be a tutorial. It's just to kind of show you how to get things moving to be able to get to work on your part of the project. So I'm not seeing anything. You guys are either your brains are blown from what we went over, or everybody's good and they just want to jump into the project. Maybe everybody's just sitting here waiting for me to talk while they're working on their tickets. Yeah, absolutely, Mel. There's definitely going to be more questions. And again, that's why I'm not necessarily expecting everybody to have everything done next Saturday. If we need to have a question, maybe there's an opportunity. If you have a question, I can put another video up for it throughout the week, this next week or something like that. I am working on trying to get my schedule into a better place so that I can get some more videos out for you guys, around lots of different things. But if it's helpful to get some more educational videos, or I could probably, I would highly recommend that you do something like another YouTube channel that does Laravel. If you're willing to pay for something, Laracasts is a great option. They do a lot more than just Laravel, but they started off with Laravel, so there's lots of good information there. But I think it's I'm not sure why it's going there first, but how much is it? How much is Laracast? I want to say it's $20 a month. But they do all kinds of different things. Yeah, $20 a month. A little bit less if you pay yearly. But yeah, there you go. They have lots of different people doing videos there. So I would highly recommend that if you want to find something that's that's paid. Um, they also have a community as well that you can get answers from. So that's an option. But there's lots of YouTube channels out there, lots of videos for people to. Oh, excuse me, I don't know what to do. I need more coffee. Lots of people out there putting videos out for Laravel, so I think you'll probably be fine. Um, it's not a standalone because it's going to be in the Blade templates. So all the routing will be handled by Laravel. Just sorry, Ali gave us a question here. He said, "Aren't we going to make React as a standalone and then call Laravel through an API?" So yes and no. The web routes are going to be handled by Laravel, and the main components will load inside those Blade templates, like we showed today. But those React components are going to make API calls to Laravel um, APIs. So yes, we're going to set up API routes in Laravel, and we'll call those routes from the React components. Um, so that yes, that's how it's going to work. So hopefully that makes sense. Assuming that will work the way that I think it will. Let's see. Mel says, when should you ask a question as a beginner? I've had people tell me to ask after an hour, but I often find I don't understand the docs the first few times I read them, but get some familiarity as I play around with stuff. Yeah, I don't think there's a good one answer for that. I think it depends on your familiarity. When you're brand new, really, when you're brand new to something, you should have somebody there walking you through how to use the docs, walking you through um, the basics of the framework of the project, things like that. Um, I mean, we do that now with our senior devs. When we take on a project at my job, we try to get to know the project as well as we can if there's an existing code base, and then we'll walk through the developers on the project and talk about the main overall concept of the project, but also this is how the code is laid out. Because sometimes you're working on code that doesn't have a standard framework, and you've got to figure out what that looks like and how things interact with each other. And so we try to do that with our devs. We try to figure that as much of that as we can, even for our senior devs. Even though they should be able to do that on their own, we want to make it faster for them to get into it. So we try to at least understand how things are set up and then communicate that to them. So really, you should have somebody doing that, especially as a junior developer. Somebody should be in that process going through that. That's one of the reasons why we did what we did today, was to refresh. That's why we've taken so long to get to this point, is to kind of show you guys how things work with the framework, how things are going to be implemented the way that we want to implement them. So that's why this is going to be it's going to be a little bit of an iterative process from a live stream standpoint, because we have to do that over distance. But that really is what you should be getting in the initial part of the project, right? As time goes, it kind of depends on the person, right? So one person's going to feel more comfortable struggling longer than another person will. And one person is going to be okay with more questions being asked of them than another person will. So it really varies based on how you feel, how the feedback you're kind of getting from your mentor or from your coworker who's working with you. So all those things play a role in that process as to how long you should wait. Generally, in my opinion, junior devs should not wait very long if they don't know what the next step is. So as long as you have another thing that you can try, go try it. But if you don't know what the next thing is to try, ask the question. And maybe that question is, hey, what else should I try? Not necessarily what's the answer, but what's something else that I should have thought to try that I didn't think to try. So now I have that in my tool belt, moving forward. And when you're being walked through something is that the time to ask 100 questions. Um, Again, I would gauge it on how they're going through it. Like if they're going through the information really fast, probably not. But if they're taking their time and walking through stuff, then they're probably going to be much more open to questions being asked, because you more than likely than not, you're just clarifying what's being said so that you can understand it more. So I think that's usually fine. Um, the big thing to keep in mind with asking a lot of questions during an explanation is that you don't know if that person's going to cover that question already, right? So they may already have a plan to get there. Most people will just say, "Hey, I'm going to cover that here in a minute," or "We'll get to that," or something like that. Um, so it may not be that big of a deal, but that would be the only. To me, that's the only showstopper. There is if you're asking questions, try to think about the question from the perspective of, is this likely something that they're going to cover, or and you don't know that all the time, and I get that, but if it feels like it's a question that makes sense in the flow of what the content is, they're probably going to cover that question. um, but you may not understand necessarily the flow that they're going through. So I would for me, I would rather you ask a question than forget about it. You can always write down questions and go over them later. So that's another option as well. But I think it really depends on the person you're interacting with, and how it seems they're trying to go through the information, whether they're trying to just vomit it out for you, or if they're trying to actually go through and help you understand along the way. So uh, it's not a one answer fits all answer. That doesn't make any sense. It's not a one size fits all answer to that question, but I think you just kind of have to gauge relationally how that's working, and different people are going to respond to it differently, and you just have to be. I think having multiple plans of asking will help you with that process. So writing the questions down that you don't feel are good to ask right now. Uh, Maybe asking one question but writing two questions down. I mean, there might be different ways to go through that to make sure you get all your questions answered, but are not necessarily an annoyance to the person who's helping you out. So hopefully that gives you something. Mel, this video keeps playing and it's driving me crazy. I'm gonna switch what's happening over here. There we go. Documentation. That doesn't change. All right. What other questions do you have? Whether it's about the project, interacting with team members, um, things that we're working with on the project, such as React or Laravel. Obviously, kind of jumped into some of that today. If everybody's good, then we'll just shut it down early. All right, I'll give you guys a couple minutes. I'll kind of close things out here. If there's a question that pops up, we'll answer it. But otherwise, I think we'll move on with our day here. What was the device you used when first learning to code? Um, a desktop of some sort. I don't know, probably a Dell desktop. Well, my very first coding was in high school, so that was on a some sort of desktop. I have no idea what it was off the top of my head. And of course, we didn't have videos and stuff to learn from. So yeah, it was just a Windows desktop that we were using. In fact, the first semester we were learning the Microsoft Suite. Back then, I think is what they called it, Microsoft Suite. But yeah, so we learned basic HTML and we learned Front Page, which was a Microsoft web editor at the time, and that was all on a Windows desktop. Windows desktop. I had a Gateway laptop when I graduated high school. That thing was like this thick. It was crazy. And then I had another. I think it was, oh, what was that called? It was a super cheap desktop that I had when I moved back home from college. E E machine. I think it was an E machine. E machine. Yes, it was. It was an E machine. So I had an E machine desktop, about the cheapest one that you could find. Oh, that used to be Gateway. Interesting. Yeah, so I had basically a Gateway laptop, and then apparently I had a Gateway desktop after that. I had that when I got married. My wife had a Dell desktop. I think I ended up using that for a while at some point. Um, and then I got my first Mac. My brother bought me a MacBook Pro in 2011. Um, and I've pretty much been Mac ever since then. Most of the places that I've worked, I've had a Mac either provided by the company or I used my own Mac. So, Elise says, I'm learning software development to know how things work and get some experience, but not to write code for my career. I'm more interested in the business side. Okay, yeah. Well, it's definitely going to help you. Um, it's kind of like I was talking to somebody today, or not today, it was Thursday, who's transitioning out of the military, but they've been doing a lot of work with design, and that's they're trying to get into doing actual code. So kind of the reverse there of what you're doing. But all those experiences are going to help you be better at what you're doing now. So like for this person, having been a designer or managed design processes and projects, they're going to be a better developer for that because they'll be able to not just write code, but they'll be able to look at it and know that it looks good and know why it looks good and why it doesn't look good for them. So those experiences will help them. So even though you're not learning code necessarily to be a developer, you'll have a better understanding of what developers are dealing with. So many times, especially in the management level, people who are not developers who manage developers don't always have a good don't always have a good understanding of what development really takes, and so there's a lot of poor estimating that happens. There's a lot of um, uh, assumptions that are made about how long something should take or how easy something should be, and in the end, that creates a lot of frustration. So having gone through this process of learning these things will really help you be able to understand not only when they're giving you bad information, the developers are trying to snowball you, but you'll also be able to understand when they're telling the truth that things are going to take longer than the company wants them to take. So that will help you in that process. So I highly encourage that. O'Neill says front page was so bad. Yes, it was. It was. I mean, I didn't know it back then because I was a senior in high school, but yeah, I would not want to use it today. That's for sure. Ali says, "Do you think there's a problem with that, or can I go parallel?" No, absolutely go parallel. You should. I think that's a great process. It's good. It's only going to help you be more valuable in your role. So, in my opinion. So the more you know, the better you can manage, the more better you can deal with different situations. I was laughing earlier because somebody was walking by, and apparently the floors in this room are not very stable because they were walking by, the camera's shaking because it's sitting on a tripod. So um, I need to find a better place to record so I don't have things shaking in the view. Let's see. Mel says, "Do you think the machine you use to learn makes a big difference on how fast you learn? For example, Windows can be troublesome, but learning to solve problems on a hard OS." Um, I don't think so, honestly. Especially today, there's so many options out there to, not just from a machine standpoint, but there's so many options out there for finding answers to those problems and questions. I don't know that it's any harder. There may not be as many resources for one machine over another, for one operating system over another, but I don't think it makes a whole lot of difference. I will say that there are certain industries, there are certain segments within industries where having a specific machine um, is more important. For example, I mean, you're probably going to write most of your C++, C Sharp code in, maybe not C++, but C Sharp, .NET. You're probably going to write that in Windows. I mean, that's because it's a Microsoft language, and so that makes more sense, right? If you're writing, what is it, Swift or whatever it is for mobile apps for Mac, for Apple, probably going to be a little bit easier on a Mac. So I think there are situations where that does make a difference, but for the vast majority of development, especially web application development, I don't think it matters at all. So if you're getting into web application development, whatever you're comfortable with generally should work. Sometimes there's tools that don't work as well with one or the other. Sometimes teams don't do things very well to allow for that. So I've worked on projects where everybody on the team had a Mac, but then they hired people from outside that company to do some work, and they didn't have Macs, but there were routes and things that were written in such a way that you couldn't even get the project up and running without having a MacBook to be able to run it. So that's that's like poor development process. You should build things to work on either type of machine that are popular, whether it's you know Mac OS or Windows, or whether it's Ubuntu or whatever, whatever flavor of Linux you're using. You really should develop your development environment in such a way that it works on any of those. So I would say for the most part, it doesn't matter, Mel. Certain industries, certain situations, yes, but for the most part, for web app development, it shouldn't be a big deal. I don't think having one over another is going to necessarily make it easier or harder in that instance. Let's see. Do you think in the future it's going towards person being generalist or specialized at a particular thing, or having both? This is a question that's been around for a long time, actually. Um, and I think the answer is less to do with the people doing the work and more with the people uh, managing the work. So, in my opinion, I would prefer to have a front end specialist, a back end specialist, and maybe a couple of full stack devs that can do both. The front end specialist you can give the really hard front end stuff to. The back end specialist you can give the really hard back end stuff to, and the front end and the full stack devs you can give them general work, right? And maybe they're even more junior level or mid level, but the other two are senior level. Um, to me, that allows you to spread the work out better for faster production. That's my opinion. So for me, I think it's a mixture. I think it's a mixture of specialized and non-specialized, because I think that's how you progress fast on a project. As far as what the rest of the world's gonna do, I think you're always gonna have a mix. That's why I think people should generally start out with a knowledge of full stack so that they can do everything, or at least understand what's going on both sides. But then as they do things and they find things that they like more, people are naturally going to get pulled in one direction or another, and you're naturally going to get better at front end development or back end development. That's just the reality of how we work as humans, as individuals, right? So we're naturally going to go towards the thing that we like most. So I think in the end, we all tend to specialize in something, but it just depends. It's that the answer to that question is more around how you're going to manage your project than it is around what should I focus on as a developer. Because as a developer, I would say be generally full stack, but know that you're going to naturally prefer one thing over another, and you're gonna naturally prefer one framework over another, one language over another. But I think the more flexible you are, the more you are willing to learn, and the more that you can learn, the more valuable you are in the marketplace. So that's why I would say I would try to be full stack, understanding that I'm going to have natural inclinations towards specific things. So, um, hopefully that answers your question, Ali, by basically saying neither. So I don't think it's going towards anything. I think you're always going to have cycles of what's popular, what's not popular. What it's going towards right now, I don't honestly know. I don't really keep too much of a. I would say probably full stack, just because there's so much. That's what most boot camps are putting out. In my opinion, they're not putting out a good full stack product, because I don't know very many companies that are actually using Node for real production applications. I've mentioned before, we only have one project out of many at the company I work for that has a Node backend. So, but that's what all the boot camps are pushing out: Node, 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 Node. Right. So just because that's what's popular doesn't necessarily mean that's what's being used or what's going to stand the test of time. So there's that too. Let's see. Yes, Ming, it is question time now. Let's see. O'Neill said, "What's the normal work day for you?" So, um, my day is a little bit weird because I don't typically do development all day anymore. I still do some development, although I've moved into what we call a director role in the company that I work for. So from like a process standpoint, we have our developers who are generally senior level developers. So we have our developers, and then we have, not necessarily above them, but just from like a structure standpoint, we have developers, and then we have lead developers. And in our case, what lead developers do is they interact some with our clients, but their main purpose is to manage the actual development of the project and make sure that tickets are created and assigned and being worked, and that they're being done well. So they'll do PR reviews. And then they're also involved in the day-to-day coding as well. So they'll have their own tickets. They'll maybe work on some of the harder pieces or the more complicated pieces, just due to their experience level, or just to take it off the plate of the other developers so that they can focus on getting a lot of stuff done. Um, so that's kind of layer one, layer two. And then above the leads is the director level. That's where I am now. I've been there since April, I think, of this year. So from a director standpoint, we have oversight over all the projects. There's several of us, and we each manage multiple projects. So our day is very heavy, usually interacting with clients, interacting with the leads, and making sure that if there's any blockers that they have from a development standpoint, that we can unblock with the client or whatever, that we do that. So again, they can focus on the actual project development as much as possible. So we do a lot of client interaction. We do a lot of um, planning, resource planning. If we need to move people around, we do a lot of standardization for how we write code, for how we do this thing or that thing. Keeping up with the developers, so we'll have meetings with developers and just check in with people, see how they're doing. But sometimes we do have to jump in, depending on where we're at from a resource standpoint. We might have to jump in and actually lead a project, or we might have to actually jump in and work on a project from time to time. In fact, I have a project that I've been doing development work on for several months now, that's about wrapped up at this point. But so it kind of differs, O'Neill, from day to day what that actually looks like. Mondays for me are generally very meeting heavy. I've got one client specifically that has a lot of meetings, and more than we typically would have with most clients. So that one's Monday's pretty heavy, and then as it gets to the end of the week, it's a lot lighter from a meeting standpoint. So I spend more time there, you know, interacting with people, unblocking people, um, doing any coding work that I would do. So I don't do nearly as much of the full-time development as I used to, which is probably evident as you watch me write code, uh, and just forgetfulness of things that I have to go look up in the documentation. So, but that's a day in my life right now is kind of is meetings, a lot of meetings, um, fixing problems, answering questions, and a little bit of coding, depending on the day. So let's see. What makes a company suited for a junior developer to grow and develop? Some kind of training and mentoring be provided until they contribute and deliver results? Good question, Ming. Um, Now this is my opinion, but it's the right opinion. I think I've said this from the beginning of the channel, and so if you go back and watch other videos, you'll probably find me talking about this. I actually have a series um, about mentoring, like what you should expect from a mentor. Um, One of the I have another series called The Dark Side of Development. Let me just see if I can find that, because there's in that series is a list. Let's see, is a video, I should say, of stop. Okay. Software becoming junior dev, getting a job, working as yeah. So I think it's the part 4, working as a software developer. It might be getting a job. I don't know, somewhere in there. I kind of talked through this, but I'll give you the short answer. If there is one. um, Most companies that hire junior developers are not set up for junior developers to be successful. And that's just an unfortunate reality. And there's 2 reasons for that. One is they just don't realize it. And 2 is they just don't care. So there are companies who are set up and they hire junior developers. They don't give them any structure. They just view them as cheap labor. And they view them as interchangeable, and they view them as disposable. I would like to say that that's not a large portion of companies that hire junior developers, but I might be incorrect there. My guess is that most companies that hire junior developers and don't manage them well, it's more the latter issue of them just not knowing what they're doing. But there are some companies that we have to realize there are some companies who are just taking advantage of the low cost of a junior developer. However, I think most companies that are not ready for junior developers fall into this category because they just don't know what they're doing. They like the idea of having junior developers, and they may even like the idea of trying to help them grow their career, but they don't know how to do that. They may have senior developers on staff that they expect will be able to mentor, and maybe that senior developer either just doesn't know how to mentor well, or they don't have the desire to mentor people. You have to have those 2 things. You have to have a desire to mentor people, and you have to know what you're doing in the mentoring process. Otherwise, you're not going to help them be successful. What I encourage junior developers to do is ask questions around not just the career progression, like what is it going to take for me to go from junior to mid to senior? Like, what does that look like in this company? But what does the company provide, and what does the company expect from a junior developer? If a company says that they're going to provide a mentor, ask questions about how that process works. Like I said, the first time I really got to be a mentor on the job, my boss literally told me 50% of your job is mentoring these junior devs so that they get up to speed as quickly as possible. And so like that was literally part of my role. Unfortunately, with most companies, that's not the case. Most companies have senior developers. They want their senior developers to be super productive. And the reality is, if you're helping one or more junior developer, you're just not going to be as productive as a senior developer, or you're going to be overworked, one of the two. Because junior developers need attention. They need interaction. They need feedback. They need training. And so when you're asking those questions, you need to find out, what does that actually look like? When a junior developer comes onto the team, what process do they have in place to get them knowledge of the system? What process do they have in place to make sure that questions are answered in a timely manner? What's the availability of a senior dev to be able to do to interact with a junior level developer? So like, you need to ask these questions, because you need to find a company that's going to give you resources to help you grow. Now, the goal obviously is that as quickly as possible, you don't rely on them anymore. That's your goal, and that's their goal as a company. But if they're just hiring junior developers and they say, well, we have documentation, or even if they say, well, we provide a training service, right, through like Laracast, Laracast or whatever it is. I just forgot the name of it. Or Udemy or something like that, right? So we pay for an account for that. That's nice, but it's not really mentoring. At the end of the day, if you're going to be successful, you need some sort of mentoring. Now, you may just have to find mentoring outside of the job. If you need a job and you need and it's a junior developer job and they don't provide that, I would highly recommend that you try to find somebody local, if possible, to be there to answer those questions. I've had lots of ideas for businesses over the year. One of them was like an ad hoc mentorship thing for companies to pay for, but companies don't like to pay for that type of stuff. So it would be great if your company would allow something like that, but especially if they don't have a lot of senior devs. So I would personally look for a company that has a majority of senior developers, that they have developers that they at least claim have the ability and the desire to interact with junior developers and help them grow. And then I would find a company that has made it clear that there's an availability and a process in place for that mentoring to take place. Again, it doesn't have to be they have 50% of their time, dedicated to that. Maybe it's 10% of their time, but there needs to be some sort of understanding from the company that this is going to require time from the senior dev, and that the senior devs are not overworked because of it. Because here's the reality. Even if I want to be a mentor to you, if my company will not give me the time to do it, I will probably take some of my extra time, or not extra time. I will take extra time to interact with you because I want to see you succeed, but it's going to be very, very limited. It's not going to be the same as if my company wants me to be a mentor. So that's the big issue, is trying to find companies where mentoring is important to them and they have a plan for it. They're not just saying that mentoring is important or that they have senior devs, but like have them explain what that looks like to them for their senior developers to be able to interact with junior developers. So that's the big thing when it comes to companies providing mentoring. I think any company that hires junior devs should do that. If a company does not have the ability financially or with the number of developers or whatever it is to be able to provide that, they're really shooting themselves in the foot, and they're hurting the industry by just hiring junior developers, chewing them up and spitting them out. And again, they may not be doing that intentionally, but if they don't know what they're doing, and if their senior devs don't know what they're doing from a mentoring standpoint, they're doing that whether they realize it or not. So being full stack opens much more doors and can handle more and stretch your skill set more. Even on the hunt, you'll be much more marketable. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. If you can show that you can learn, because it shows you can learn multiple things. So if you can be full stack, especially if you've got a different language on the back end, um, it's not just everything's not just JavaScript. That shows that you can learn things and you can apply them to the different areas of development that you need to apply them to. So I fully agree with that. Mel says, "Do you prefer a lead role over writing code?" It depends on the day. It really depends on the day. Um, I would say in general, the older I've gotten, the more I prefer the lead role. The more I've gotten into mentoring, the more I prefer a lead role, because that affords me more of those types of opportunities. I would say I enjoy mentoring more than I do writing code. But honestly, there are days where, I'm spending the whole day writing code and I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this is fun. I remember how fun this is to write code, even, and how frustrating it is to write code, and how enjoyable it is to actually get work through that bug and have success and do the silent, pump, in the coffee shop or whatever it is, and other people look at you weird, or just at your desk and your wife walks by and is like, what's going on? So I do like both. I think that's why I still do this, and why I do this, and why I, will work on side projects and things like that from time to time, because I still do like writing code. I would say my passion is more around leadership and more around mentoring these days, but I wouldn't be able to be here if I hadn't done the code in the past too and had that experience. So I would say right now I would prefer the leading roles, but certainly still enjoy writing code too. So there's that. Uh, Mel says devs that talk about lead roles often sound like bridesmaids wishing they could be the one doing the things such as writing the code. Yeah, well, sometimes it depends on who you're working with and how much trust you have in them to get the job done. Um, if you know that you can do it faster than that person, then sometimes there's a temptation to just do it yourself. But that doesn't help anybody else grow in their career and in their skill set and in their experience. So you have to fight against that. But maybe sometimes there's opportunities for you to just take on something so that you stay up to date. That's one of the reasons why our lead devs are still very active in writing code. We want them to not just have skin in the game on the project, but we want them to make sure that they're keeping their skills up to date and staying up to date with updates and frameworks and languages and things like that too. So there's an important aspect of continuing to write code, even when you get into some of those leadership positions that keep you from it from a day-to-day perspective. Let's see. Ming says, since I started my journey, my friend has been mentoring me. He's building his startup, and at some point, he'll want to hire me when he picks it up. Thoughts on this? I mean, that sounds awesome. um, the only concern I would have is that working for family or friends can be very difficult if roles are not defined well, if responsibilities are not defined well, and if there's a clear understanding of how the hierarchy works, of what expectations are, because you don't want to ruin your friendship over a business, and you don't want to ruin your business over friendship. So I would pursue it, but I would pursue it cautiously. I'd want to set up very specific guardrails around that. But I think it's great if you have somebody who is mentoring you, who has the opportunity to hire somebody, and they feel like you would be a good fit. I mean, to me, that's a great thing. I would wholeheartedly pursue it. I would just pursue it cautiously, as you go, just understanding that's going to change the dynamics of your relationship, even as a mentor. Whether he was, your friend before or not, even as a mentor, that's going to change the dynamics of those relationships some, because you're going to be in a position where he's going to be relying on you, not just mentoring you. So there are some things to at least consider in that, and I think it's good to maybe write down some plans around that as far as structure, what roles mean, what expectations are. Have some of those things written down so that you can both go back to them and make sure that you're both fulfilling your end of the bargain in that process. So that's the big thing that I would caution. I think it's awesome if you're able to work with a friend. I've worked with family members. I've worked with friends in the past, and it's worked out fine for the most part. But it does change. It definitely changes the dynamics of the relationship. So you want to put guardrails up as much as you can for that specifically. All right. Well, we made it to 2 hours. Good job, guys. You came through with some questions that made me monologue probably much longer than necessary. But you know me, I like to talk. You just need like 3 questions and I'll talk for 30 minutes. So there's that. So we're going to shut it down for today. Again, go ahead and get to work on those tickets. If there's a ticket onto somebody else and it doesn't move here in the next few days and you've got your ticket done and want to grab it, feel free to grab it. Let me know if you want me to reassign it to you. I don't know if you have the ability to reassign a ticket to yourself or not, but we'll move forward on the tickets. We'll take a look at any PRs that are up next week. There will be some, so I'm going to be missing a week at the beginning of October, and maybe the week before that I'll be traveling. So I might be able to do maybe a short live stream the week before from my hotel room. We'll see. But I'll keep you guys updated as we get closer to that. But thank you all for jumping in on the live stream today. Thanks for participating in that, for participating in the DeepPockets project. Hopefully we get this thing started moving down the road here and actually building a real project and getting this thing done. I don't think we'll be done by the end of the year, but you never know. We might pick up some people. Now that we're making progress on the project, we might pick some people up, along the way. So we'll see how that goes. But thanks for jumping on today. Thanks for hanging out with me. Hopefully you've enjoyed it and it's been helpful to you, not just learning on the project, but helpful to you in your development journey. So I will see you next time. Have a great weekend.